Today, we are joined by a titan of journalism, a man whose career spans 50 years and whose work has left an indelible mark on how we understand the news. Bill O'Reilly is not just a journalist, he's an institution with 19 #1 New York Times bestsellers and the title of the best-selling nonfiction author in the world. And then today, he's here with us to tackle some of the most pressing and controversial topics. Can Donald Trump stop what he calls the age of disorder? Korea, hostages, the Ukraine, what's driving these crises and how do they end? The Democratic Party, what does a sane left look like and who can lead them in the future? And of course, we'll unpack the lessons from Bill's latest book, Confronting the Presidents, as he shares what history teaches us about leadership, revenge, and the personal advice he gave Trump on what he must do to go down as one of the greats.
That's all he has to do, and the Mexican economy collapses.
Bill is coming out hot. It is time to keep it real with none other than the one and only Bill O'Reilly. Keeping it real with Jillian Michaels. Keeping it real. Bill, you say that Trump is going to stop the age of disorder. I had initially intended to ask you what that meant.
The rise of disorder in the world, that is something that I am hoping President Trump can tamp down. And it all has to do with the way the United States presents itself to the rest of the world. So Joe Biden, no doubt a weak president, and I'm not coming at this from a Republican or a Democrat, I'm a registered independent, okay? But he was a disaster. He's very weak. His policies are all over the place. United States struggled with Afghanistan and that surrender, which sent signals to all the people who hate us that we got a weak guy in there. Biden wouldn't really engage in Israel or in the Ukraine to any meaningful extent. So now you got a strong man, Trump. And that's why partially why he's in there, that Americans are expecting him to calm things down.
You know, you travel the world, and I was in Europe over the summer. They were terrified Trump was going to become the next president. I would ask why, and they would say, oh, he's going to get us into war. In my lifetime, I haven't ever felt this close to war. And you said that what's going on in Russia and Ukraine is the worst bloodbath in Europe since World War II in 1943 in Stalingrad. So why do you think so many on the other side see this guy as a wrecking ball? What am I not getting? Because I feel like everything is currently in a state of disorder, as you mentioned. What does the other side see that I'm not seeing or you're not seeing?
All right. So I've been to 86 countries in the world, and every place has its own agenda. And unfortunately, most people are not informed, even here in the United States. I mean, if you go out and you ask people just elementary questions about their country, like, what are the three branches of government? They have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So people, it's all emotion. It's all emotion. So if you're a person who fears global warming, you're going to hate Trump. Okay, you think that the world's going to end in 10 years because it's too hot, Trump's not your guy. And if you are a special interest person that wants to promote a certain group at the expense of another group, you're not going to like Trump. So what this is people think that Trump is a warmonger. That's the opposite of what Trump is. But there is, I'm going to say that with one footnote.
Okay.
If you mess with Trump, he'll hurt you. So I wrote a book called Killing the Killers about how the United States destroyed the jihadist movement. That's ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and some of the other smaller groups. And we dismantled them in a way that was brutal. And that was Obama and Trump.
Right.
Biden had nothing to do with it.
Right. Obama, though, did the exact same thing. So wouldn't there be... Where's the alarm then if you don't like how Trump handled it, but you voted for Obama?
Right. So people don't know that, though. Oh. That's why I wrote the book.
I got it, okay.
Obama and Trump were simpatico that these guys had to go, and we knocked them out. Now, in Ukraine, you had Obama stay out of it because he lost Crimea to Putin. Putin took Crimea away from Ukraine under Barack Obama, and Obama didn't do anything. And then Putin would go, aha. But when Trump got elected, Putin knew, because he's kind of a feral type guy, is a different person. So I think that, and I'm pretty sure this is true, there'll be a ceasefire in Ukraine very quickly after the inauguration on January 20th. Because Putin is suffering. The ruble has collapsed. Anybody watching us tonight that has investments in Russia, say goodbye. Their currency is collapsed. More than 300,000 Russians dead or wounded. For what? So Putin can't even come outside. The fear of assassination is so high. They've got underground tunnels in Moscow where they have to take him, and he can't sleep in the same place. Can't even get out to his Dachau on the Black Sea. He knows that he's in big trouble, Putin. And they'll come to some accommodation. Now, is that World War III? I don't think so. If Kamala were elected, if she had won, much more of a chance that Putin would have gone even crazier than he already has, because he doesn't fear Biden and Harris.
Okay, see, this is where I get a little confused, because I know how, or I'm anticipating how the spin's going to go. Trump comes in, Zelensky says, okay, we're going to give up some land and we're not going to join NATO. And then everybody goes, see, Putin won. We had him on the run. The ruble was collapsing, but Trump is such a Putinite and he worships Putin as a dictator. Putin is his hero and he caved. That's how I'm anticipating they'll spin it. So Trump keeps saying he's going to de-escalate. Is that not weak to let Putin off the hook then?
No, he's got to get a deal with Putin. Nobody wants this to continue. So Trump is much friendlier toward Putin than I am. You may remember that 8 years ago, I did the first interview with Donald Trump when he was elected in 2016. Right. And we got in a back and forth about Putin. I said, hey, this is your buddy. He's a killer.
Right.
And then Trump said, hey, we're not so clean here in the United States. That soundbite went all over the world. So Trump is a little softer on bad Vlad than I am. I think he's, Stalin light. But his own self-interest drives Putin, and Putin needs a ceasefire. And I think Trump will get Ukraine a decent deal because Trump doesn't want to look weak in the world opinion, as you point out.
Okay.
He doesn't, Trump, he's got the macho image to uphold. He's a strong man, as I said. So I think it's going to work. I think that war is going to tamp down.
When Trump came out and said, if we don't get those hostages back, there'll be hell to pay. Bill, I want to preface by telling you, a former hard lefty. And even as a hard lefty, I don't feel like I have shifted. I feel like the party of the Dems has shifted away from me. You talk about how Obama used to be dealing with these issues and how he was more in alignment with Trump than he is with his own party, or he was with his own party, Biden. Why didn't we do that? I thought that's the first thing we would do. I thought we would have said, this is America, you give us our people back or there'll be hell to pay. And I thought we would have gone to all these other Arab nations, forced their cooperation, deliver Hamas. Number one, why didn't we do that? And subsequently, what does hell to pay look like for Trump on these people?
It's a little bit complicated, but I'll try to get through it here.
If anyone can handle it, it's you.
The only nation on earth that can stop Hamas from killing innocent people is Iran. So when Trump says there'll be hell to pay, he's not talking about the Hamas people who are running around in the tunnels, and because the Israelis are ferreting them out.
Got it.
What Trump is saying is, unless Iran makes Hezbollah and Hamas stop attacking innocent people, we're going to strangle Iran. And the United States can do that fairly easily. So Iran's not in good shape either. They're like Putin. Their economy totters. It's an all-import economy. Can't grow food in Iran. It's all desert. You get the food in, all right? You have to bring it in. The United States can cut that off in a heartbeat. We could starve the Persians out. There's a million different ways we can get that country on the run. Now, you ask why Biden didn't do it? I don't know. All I know is that Joe Biden's the second worst president in history, as I write about in my book, Confronting the President.
I've got it right.
He's the second worst. Right. And I make a compelling case. You don't have to believe me, but I got the data. But getting back to Trump, Trump's going to, through the Swiss embassy in Tehran represents U.S. interests. We don't have anybody there. But Trump will say to the Swiss ambassador, hey, you tell the mullahs this. And there's a good chance the mullahs will tell Hamas and Hezbollah to knock it off, at least temporarily.
Speaking of confronting the presidents, I'm going to jump ahead then, because I had intended to ask you what you would confront Biden with. I know it's in the book, but in a nutshell, what are the highlights? What are the talking points that we need to know? You say he's the worst, second worst. Why? Outside of the things we've already mentioned.
Because Biden created the problems. Most failed presidents inherit the problems. Herbert Hoover inherited the Great Depression. Totally befuddled, didn't know what to do. Americans were dying, there wasn't enough food, and Herbert sat there and looked around and had no blanking idea. Terrible president.
Got it.
All right? And all of the presidents that were terrible inherited stuff that they just couldn't deal with. The worst president is James Buchanan, the guy before Lincoln. The South started to rise up in ferocity. Buchanan did nothing. He could have sent down Union troops to quell the early rebellion. The Civil War wouldn't have happened. He didn't. He was a coward. Now, Joe Biden creates problems. Why would any president open the southern border to 14 million foreign nationals, most of whom are unsupervised? We don't know who they are,
right,
where they are,
right,
or what they're doing. Why would anyone do that? Biden has never explained it, all right? It's an insane policy that's hurt every American, even though people who don't know they've been hurt have been, because of the astronomical cost and the crime and on and on and on. So when you're a president and you come in and you cause the problems yourself, that means that you're a total failure.
Got it.
Why did he do Afghanistan? Why would you do that? And leave, what $60 billion worth of weapons in so the Taliban could take them? I was in Afghanistan. I was at Bagram. Biden didn't have to do that. There was no reason to do it. He just did it. And then he goes, oh, it was an excellent move. No, you dunderhead. It was terrible. And you're a terrible president. And that's the truth.
Bill, do you have a theory on why he behaved in this fashion, in these ways? I mean, I'm sure you've heard the conspiracy tin hat theory of, well, we let in all these illegals because we're gaming elections. And then I've had other people telling me that's complete nonsense. It's coming out of, some very powerful voices. Do you have theories on why he would do this kind of thing, like leave all of our stuff, including the dogs, by the way, which personally just any theories on this? Why?
I don't do theories, Jillian.
Okay.
I'm just a straight facts down the line guy.
Got it.
I mean, I don't know why Biden did it. He never explained it. I'm sure there'll be books written about it. I do know that the progressive movement that controls Joe Biden in the White House, he's not in charge. They want open borders. George Soros, you've heard that name, right?
I have.
Pumps billions of dollars into far left causes. He wants an open border. Now, whether it's because he wants more progressive voters, possible, okay? But the unintended consequences have been a disaster for the country. And then we'll go into crime and punishment. The progressive movement believes that most criminals are victims of society. that it's not really their fault that they shoplift and mug and sell heroin and fentanyl. No, they were deprived as kids. It's America's fault. We can't put them in prison. We got to let them just run around and work it on out. That's what the progressive movement believes. That's why you see in California a total collapse of the justice system. We have it in New York City as well.
Right.
Because that's what the progressive movement believes. It's insane, but they have power in the Democratic Party. And Biden did every blanking thing the progressives told him to do.
You know, you brought up California and you brought up Soros. So actually, that's my next area of questioning for you here. You've said that the Democratic Party needs a return to sanity. But before we get to what that means, I don't even think we're moving close to that direction. You've got Gavin Newsom, who has just raised a $25 million war chest to anti-Trump California. Jamie Raskin is in the news saying that House Democrats have to stand in the breach to defend the principles and institutions of constitutional democracy. This is their historic assignment now. We dare not fail. These are direct quotes. And the list of Democratic governors revolting to anti-Trump their cities is long. Why in the world would you do this when you lost in staggering numbers, when California went more red than it has, and I can't even imagine how many years? You've got sanctuary cities that they want to stop the deportation of criminals. They are talking about combating Republican policies around immigration, as we discussed, and LGBTQ plus rights, which, I mean, I'm keenly aware of, and I don't feel like there's a militia coming to get me and my family. What do you think about this? This is the farthest thing from your return to a sane Democratic Party. Is this suicide for them?
Well, I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about Gavin Newsom other than how he got his hair that way. You know, pretty impressive hair. But otherwise, Gavin Newsom plays to his progressive crew, and they still control California. They're slipping, as you pointed out.
Right.
They're slipping, but he's still controlled. But here's what I told my audience tonight on the No Spin News, which is our TV broadcast. You can get it on BillO'Reilly.com, and that's where we live. If I'm the head of the FBI, which is probably going to be this guy, Kash Patel, the tough guy, and Trump has nominated him to be the head of the FBI. It's got to be confirmed by the Senate, but I think he'll get through. And if I tell my agents to go and arrest some undocumented migrants in California, and the authorities in California don't cooperate, I, the head of the FBI, get on a plane, fly to Sacramento, and arrest Governor Newsom myself and put him in handcuffs myself. And I tell the press I'm going to do it so they can see me lead the governor out and put him in a paddy wagon, that's a slur against the Irish, by the way, and take him to the federal holding center. And that's what I do. If any local or state official defies federal law, they can be arrested for obstructing a federal investigation. And I think that's what President Trump is going to do. I hope he does, because enough's enough.
Okay, I'm going to spin this on you. He's going after his political opponents. He's doing everything.
No. It's not. He doesn't have a list of people that he's going to terrorize. All right. He's got a list of people who are not obeying the law. And he's going to insist that the law be obeyed, the federal law be obeyed. Or he's going to do one of two things. He's going to arrest people through the Justice Department. President doesn't have arrest powers, but the president does have the power of the purse. He can stop block grants to Boston, for example. The mayor Wu there, very progressive. Oh, we're not going to cooperate. Okay, you're not getting any money. No money. No transportation money, no education money, nothing from the federal government until you cooperate with us. President can do that, and I certainly would.
You certainly would. Okay, Trump has said if Gavin doesn't play ball, he's not giving him any fire aid. And I questioned, having lost a home in the fire in California, I questioned whether that was the best strategy because it's hurting the innocent people. Do you think that could backfire on the Republicans who are gaining ground in California? Should there be a disaster and Trump says, no, I don't like Newsom, I'm not going to do it. And even though I know you're going to say, well, Newsom's not playing ball, Newsom's, you know the spin.
No, I wouldn't do. I wouldn't. No, that I would be. If Donald Trump ever did that, I would smash him.
He's suggesting he's going to do it. He did say it. He did, Bill.
Jillian, if you write down everything that Donald Trump says, you'll have a journal of 6 million words in a month. All right? It's just like a stream of consciousness. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. I know the man. All right. I probably know him better than anybody else in the country as far as being a journalist historian. He just says stuff. He likes to shake it up. He's a provocateur. But when it comes down to governing, if you look at the 4 years he was in office, he didn't do any of that crazy stuff. He didn't, like the Biden administration did, fail to help people with Trump signs on lawns in Florida and North Carolina. Remember that?
I heard it. I heard it. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Actually, Bill, I heard about it. There was proven.
Yeah, it was so loopy. Right.
In a disaster, they didn't get aid.
Yeah.
That's true.
It was hurricanes, and then some loopy FEMA employees said to the people, if they have a Trump sign, don't help them out.
True.
And those people got fired and whatever.
Wow.
And you can't hold Joe Biden accountable for them.
Okay.
But Biden didn't say anything about it. He didn't come out and condemn it because he probably doesn't even know about it. You know, there's a lot of nap time going on in the White House. Right. And you got to get to Biden between the naps so he knows, pretty much what you're mad about.
Okay. You said that anti-Trumping the cities is illegal. But then why are people allowed to deem themselves a sanctuary city? And can you also define what does that mean? Because I watched Gavin Newsom in a debate with Hannity a bit ago, and he was saying, like, I have no choice. This is the only way I can handle the influx because... Okay, explain. What is it? Why is he allowed to do that?
So it's very simple.
Okay.
Let's take San Francisco, for example.
Got it.
Okay?
Yeah.
So San Francisco is run by progressives, and it's fallen apart. Probably the most beautiful city in the United States. And if you go there now, you're horrified because drug addicts all over the place. There's no public safety, no standards of behavior. It's all out in public. Imagine a kid walking to school seeing all this. It's crazy. So San Francisco governance says, look, if we arrest somebody and they are a foreign national, we're not going to alert Homeland Security, the feds, about it. And if the feds come to us and say, please hold this person, it's called a detainer.
Okay.
Hold them. We're not going to hold them. That's what a sanctuary city is. They don't obey federal law. They don't obey Homeland Security when Homeland Security asks them to do certain things regarding undocumented criminals. That's all. It's a simple concept. Newsom could order San Francisco to do it in a heartbeat. And if they didn't do it, then Newsom sends in the state police to do it. Okay? So governors have power. Newsom is a BS artist. All right? I'm sorry. I don't know him. I mean, maybe someday I'll be out in LA on a treadmill in a health club and he'll be next to me. But that's the only way he's ever going to talk to me.
Okay, so forgive me. You're dealing with a complete newbie here. So you're telling me that Newsom can say it's a sanctuary city, and if they don't comply, he can get the police involved. But then,
sure.
But then Trump can get the FBI involved. So it's like a game of, who's the most
powerful. If the Justice Department, which is going to be run by a woman named Pam Bondi as the Attorney General, if they get a report from Homeland Security, which is going to be run by Kristi Noem, current governor of South Dakota, if the Justice Department gets a report that San Francisco refused to hold an undocumented migrant accused of murder, for example, or heavyweight drug dealing,
Got it.
All right, lets them out on bail, then they can go in and they can arrest, all right, the officials in San Francisco.
Crazy.
They can arrest them.
Who are following the
And I hope
governor's
they
orders.
do.
Wow. You know, you bring up San Francisco and crime, and Californians voted out the Soros DA, Gascon.
Yeah.
They are sick of the crime, and yet the Democrats just don't. What are you missing? There is a mandate here. They don't want this. Is it because this guy Soros has so much power that it's like, yeah, I know the people are starting to turn on you, but I'm giving you so much money, I have so much power? And who actually is George Soros? You hear his name a lot, and he puts in these DAs that let out criminals, and you've got Tim Walz in a picture with the guy's son, Alex Soros. But this guy supposedly sows the seeds of absolute chaos. Who is this guy?
Well, he's a far-left financier, born in Hungary, and got in a lot of trouble in France by manipulating currencies.
Right.
Made a fortune selling short on the British pound. Comes to the United States. He's kind of a crazy guy. He's 94 now, I think. His son, Alex Soros, runs the operation.
Yeah.
What people don't understand, Jillian, is politics is an industry. It's like making plastics, okay? Politics is an industry. And in order to prosper in the industry, you need money. You need money to run. You need money to get a staff. You need money to get an infrastructure. You need money to buy television and radio commercials. You need vast amounts of money. Soros provides the money to the people that agree with him on the far left spectrum of political thought. That's what he does. And by controlling that money flow to certain people, particularly in local races like district attorneys, if George Soros gives you $2 million to run for DA of Oakland, you're going to win. Because you can buy the TV spots, you can buy the advertising, you can just blow the, and most people, as I said at the beginning of this interview, don't know what the deuce is going on. They don't know. And you can promise them anything. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, your rights, my rights, everybody's rights. They don't know. And money is the driver in American politics. And that's why Soros is so powerful. And it's not just Soros. It's Katzenberg and Hollywood. Hollywood is like a big monolithic money machine to these progressive causes. Huge money. Ari Emanuel, all of these big Hollywood guys pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into the progressive movement. And most people have no idea. You know, they're watching Netflix. They don't know who runs Netflix. It's run by a guy named Reed Hastings. You don't get any further left than Reed. They don't know. But that's where the power lies in American politics, money.
Is it possible, you talked about how he's manipulating currency, Soros is manipulating currencies.
Yeah, that was way back.
So you don't think it's like, I've heard maybe he's trying to create chaos because he wants to create, I don't even understand this, forgive me, but arbitrage with the dollar, like sink the dollar, I guess? Is that, no conspiracy? Okay, nuts.
94 years old. The guy's lucky that, he can eat custard for dessert.
So it's just ideology. He's ideologically...
Right. But his machine is still there. It's called the Open Society Foundation. You can look it up. You can Google it. That's what he runs.
And that's what his son now is leading the charge on. Got it. Okay. Talking about you... mentioning the Democrats need to bring the party back to sanity. Bring the party back to sanity. Why do you care, and what does that look like?
Well, I love my country. I mean, a guy like me, I'm born in Levittown, Long Island. My folks didn't have a lot of money. We had a lot of used cars. They weren't pre-owned then. They were used. We had hot dogs and fish sticks for dinner. And, my friends are cops and teachers and firefighters. And that's when I go back to my Levittown neighborhood, they go, how come you're not in jail? So a guy like me, rises to one of the highest levels of journalism ever. And it could only happen in America. Couldn't happen in Switzerland, couldn't happen in Italy, certainly couldn't happen in the Far East. So on that basis of opportunity, I want my country to be as stable and fair and kind as it can be. And that's what I shoot for in my books and my commentaries on radio and television.
Because if the Dems do return to sanity, they'll put up a significant fight in the coming elections. Because I think so many were lost. I was lost. Musk was lost. Gabbard was lost. Kennedy was lost. I mean, these people are not standalone, obviously. They represent millions of votes, as we saw in this election. So then that simply means to me that you're a let the best man win kind of a guy. I've always thought of you as more far right, even though you did say you're independent.
No, I'm not. That's what they do. I mean, O'Reilly's this or O'Reilly's that. I'm very much a person who wants to promote problem solving. And I split tickets all the time when I vote. Really? If I think the person in the Democratic Party is sincere and going to solve a problem, then I'm going to vote for that person. I'm not some ideological zombie. And I couldn't prosper the way I have, Jillian, if I were. So we are the most successful independent news agency in the world now, thanks to YouTube. I love YouTube. I don't exactly know what YouTube is, but I love it. All right, because once I left Fox and started my own independent news organization, all right, we did very well. But then we broke out into YouTube, and now it's astronomical because people, many of them, want fair analysis. They don't want this ideological zombie Kool-Aid drinking stuff. And that's what's ruined the corporate American press and media. It's ruined it. MSNBC's gone forever. Goodbye. CNN is on a verge of collapse. The networks, the three of them, you can't even name who the CBS News new anchor persons are. Nobody knows who they are. That's Walter Cronkite's network. It's over. So it's the independent guys like me and gals, all right, that are putting out product that Americans and people all over the world deem to be fair. I think the big word is fair.
Right.
That will prosper in the future.
I want to ask you about that in particular. You've talked about the hatred that's going on in the media. And you've differentiated the way things were debated in the past. And I was wondering if you could sort of elaborate on how the media has changed. And I've watched you in so many different interviews, and I particularly love when you go back and forth with Jon Stewart. It's like you couldn't have guys further on the end of the spectrum, and yet you have this great repartee, a clear mutual respect. What's happened to that, do you think? And why is it happening?
Well, first of all, I fake my respect for Stewart.
Me too.
No,
Me too. I hate the guy.
I don't dislike people who disagree with me. That's number one. I don't dislike Joe Biden. I know him a little bit. I think he's incompetent. All right. I think he's been a disastrous president, but I don't dislike him. I'm not hoping for bad things to happen to him.
Okay.
All right. That's not me. But you ask a very, very astute question. What is the rise of the hate in the media? And it is a very simple answer. To do what I do, and this is going to sound self-aggrandizing, I'm sorry, you got to know stuff.
Right.
You got to know stuff. All right? I've been all over the world. I covered 4 wars. I know everybody. Everybody. I speak with them. All right? I've interviewed 6 presidents. I know how it all works. The people that are being hired now on national news, a lot of them don't know anything. And they're directed to do things. They're told to do things. All right? You're going to hate this person. You're going to say this about Trump. You're going to say that about Chuck Schumer. You're going to say that about Gavin Newsom. And you better say it or you're gone. And it goes for the newspaper industry. Look at the Los Angeles Times.
Oh, my God.
That has gone from 500,000 circulation to under 100,000 because Angelenos understand the fix is in. You're not going to get the news from that paper. And now the owner, who's losing gazillions, goes, well, I guess we should get somebody in that is not a progressive and maybe another point of view. Hello, that took you 8 years to figure out? Okay? It's easy to speak to the choir. It's simple. Fox News lost $1 billion, $1 billion, because they spoke to the choir when the 2020 election was controversial. And it was proven what they were saying was false. Now, I think Fox, FNC, because I know everybody over there, has learned its lesson. $1 billion might do that. Jeez. But the others, I mean, they are peddling hate on MSNBC. I can't figure it out because that's Comcast. They're killing their own brand. I know Lester Holt. I work local news with him in New York City. He's a good guy. He's a solid guy. But he's being tainted by Rachel Maddow. I mean, and you can't see that? Why are they permitting it? And CNN went so far left, they're trying to come back now. They even actually booked me for confronting the presidents. That shocked me and my people. They go, CNN wants you to come on and talk about the book. I said, what?
That's awesome.
CNN or CNN in Albania. I think they're trying to come back, but it's easy to peddle hate. The haters get attention, they can get a small audience, and they can make money. And that's why it's happening.
I got to tell you, when I watch The View, it is nothing but propaganda and vitriol.
And that has hurt ABC News because ABC News controls The View. So I've been on The View 20 times, but that was when Barbara Walters was there, okay? And that hatred didn't exist. You still had Behar and Whoopi, you had them, but they were kind of not censored, but there was a different feel to it. Now it's like, you know, your head's going to blow off. And they only have 2 million people watching them. Why does ABC News want to ruin their brand by this? So Disney's going to have to take The View over. That'll happen pretty soon.
Why don't they add? I mean, The View was intended to be a show with differing points of view. And now they are just completely captured, one message only, can never admit when something's wrong. So, for example, Biden just pardoned his son. He said he wouldn't do it. And they're like, I can't believe you guys are clutching your pearls. Only a good father would do that. And it's not that anyone's clutching their pearls. It's the fact that you have jumped down Trump's throat for doing things of a similar nature, acting as though you're the better people and you're the better party. And it's the hypocrisy. It's like, can't you just admit they're all kind of gangsters? All politicians are gangsters, but they don't admit it. And it's exactly that makes you go, all right, you can't trust anything you guys say. Forget it. But, you know, do you think that's why the Washington Post didn't endorse a candidate this year?
Sure. And Bezos said, look, we lost $77 million so far this year. We can't afford, you know, is there any moderate, traditional or conservative American who reads the Washington Post? No. But The View is an interesting, because I know Behar and Sonny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg pretty well. I like them all.
You do? Oh, I find them so difficult and unlikable now. They're
difficult.
Like a rabid hen house.
I should have meant. She's really gotten too vitriolic for me.
Yeah.
But I don't think Whoopi's a bad person. I mean, God, I must have known Whoopi Goldberg for 30 years. And I've seen her do tremendous acts of kindness.
Yeah.
But it's all about emotion for the ladies. They live in a giant New York City emotion bubble.
Right.
And living in a bubble is not good for anybody. And so they hear every time, every place, what they want to hear. They believe what they want to believe. And that's a comfort zone. It's kind of like a little tranquilizer. They live in liberal world, and they don't want to get out because O'Reilly walks in, and then, oh, my bubble's going to get popped. I don't want the bubble to get popped. And that's what it's all about.
That's crazy. You talk about the different aspects of the Democratic Party. The mainstream media, you mentioned, Hollywood, you mentioned, big donors like Soros, you mentioned. So coming back to this, what does a sane Democratic Party look like then? So I know why they're going unhinged, but who is the person that leads this party? Like, they seem like a headless chicken at this point. And what are some of the positions you think they should start espousing outside of sterilizing children who are confused about their gender?
Well, there is no leader of the Democratic Party now, and it's going to be a problem if Trump succeeds in lowering prices and stabilizing overseas conflicts. And he will succeed at the border. Mexico's going to have to do exactly what Trump wants them to do, or the country will go bankrupt. So if Trump succeeds, then you're going to have J.D. Vance be the next president. So the Democratic Party's got to now look out for 8 years. Because they're not going to win unless Trump bombs. Now, if Trump gets into trouble and things go south, particularly economically, then the Democrats will have a chance in 28. But they don't have anybody now that's well known. Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, is a pretty smart guy.
Right.
Governor of Kentucky is moderate, and that's a conservative state. He's a Democrat, and they like him. And I think he's pretty responsible. And there are a few others, but they're not widely known. And coming off Trump, I mean, he's so larger than life that almost all the other politicians pale beside him. And the only way the Democratic Party is going to rise up is to find another JFK, find another charismatic leader who's not a loon. You know, who can say, okay, we understand that biological men shouldn't be competing against women on the playing field. We get that. And we'll make an accommodation in that vein. We understand that maybe you don't support abortion up until birth for every reason. No, you know, there's only 3 countries in the world, non-communist countries, do that. There's a reason for that. I mean, we live in a society that's got to have some kind of protections for everybody, even the unborn. Not the progressives, no. And we got to have an immigration law that's sane. You want to come here? Okay. We'll take your application and we'll try to get you in here, but you're going to have to be patient. I mean, you just can't siege the border. Now, if the Democratic Party would come back into those realms, then they could rebuild. But not the way it is now.
Bill, that's the Democratic Party of 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And
longer. Clinton.
Really?
Bill Clinton was the last moderate Democrat to really gain the confidence of the American people. And then Lewinsky blew that up. But Bill Clinton, when he left office, his approval rating was about 60% because the economy was good.
Right.
And Clinton was not a progressive. And is not a progressive today, by the way. Bill Clinton, smart guy. Talked to him many times. I always run into him, and we have good conversations. But now they need another Bill Clinton.
Not Obama. You didn't think Obama was that guy, like charismatic, everybody loved him. You felt like he was in control of things. He was not for open borders. He had as many drone strikes as Trump or something of that nature. Like, he wasn't, you don't think he's that guy? Or was that guy?
There are 2 Obamas. And this is one of my favorite chapters in confronting the presidents. And I got a lot of mail from right-wingers. How can you say good things about Barack Obama? Because they're true. That's why. So I like Barack Obama. And I had a very good relationship with him for 8 years. And I helped him in one of his signature programs called Brother's Keeper, which is mentoring inner city minority kids without fathers. And that's the highest risk group in the country. And I helped him with that, and he acknowledged that I did, and we worked together pretty well. Obama was 2 people. behind the scenes, he's a tough SOB. And he wiped out ISIS and he deported a lot of people that came into this country illegally, but you never heard about it. Okay, he didn't put out press releases. He didn't do any of that.
I see.
The other person was the semi-progressive identity politics guy.
Okay.
All right, and you saw that a little bit more. Now, overall, Obama governed efficiently for this country. All right, Obamacare, and the conservatives are still jumping up and down, that turned out to be a good thing. It saved a lot of lives. So acknowledge it. Now, I don't want socialized medicine, which is what Kamala wanted and Bernie Sanders wanted, because I don't trust the government to run an efficient healthcare system because they don't run anything efficiently.
Right.
Nothing. Okay? I don't want to go see the doctor appointed by Chuck Schumer. Okay? I'll get my own doctor. But we have to have some safeguards there.
Yeah, in case
So
people can't
Obama
afford their own doctor, right?
Right.
Yeah.
He was very practical, but he didn't want that side out. He wanted the liberal guy out. And I think that had a lot to do with Michelle, but I'm not sure.
I want to circle back to one thing. Part of this whole resist movement that the Democrats or certain Democrats are espousing includes LGBTQ plus rights. Okay. I'm confused. What am I not getting? I don't see anybody in the process of rounding up the gays. I feel like I would know. I have yet to have my rights infringed upon. Is this propaganda? Is there any evidence of this? Or the abortion ban? Like, listen, I don't agree with what happened with Roe v. Wade. I believe that there should be a protection for women up to a certain point, and I totally agree with you that late-term abortions for a healthy child and a healthy mother are insane. Are any of these threats to fairness or marginalized groups legitimate, in all honesty? Like, are they?
You have to start with the premise. So the progressive movement believes that America is not a noble nation, generally speaking. It's very hard to be a progressive and think that this is a noble country.
Ah, I see.
It's based on grievance. The biggest grievance is slavery and how that has chained down throughout history to provide African Americans with disadvantage. There's some truth to that.
Right.
But grievance does not get you prosperity. Right now, the apparatus is set up that if you are an African American and you work hard and you develop your skill, you'll succeed here.
Right.
Now, as far as gays are concerned, this is another group that the progressives can use to say, hey, those mean conservatives, the patriarchy, the white men who run the country, they hate gays. We have to get special protections and special things for the gays. That's where it comes from. Now, I'm a former high school teacher, and I saw gay kids tortured in the school where I was teaching. I stopped it. And boy, I did it in a very, very overt way. Like, if you keep it up, you're going to have to deal with me. I'm 6'4" and 220 pounds. Stop it. And the kids stopped it.
Right.
But I had to do that. That was horrible. So I understand that certain groups are under pressure from loons, and they could get hurt, and they need to have protections.
Okay.
But what we don't want is to divide the nation into tribes.
Right.
And that's what the progressive movement does.
Yes. It's so divisive.
Its power
right.
off the tribes. Yeah. And we don't want that. We want to all be Americans.
I just don't get it. As a gay person, we have had the right to marry and adopt children legally, and no one has told me that they're coming for me or for my kids or for my wife. I've yet to hear it. And in fact, when I actually looked into the things that Trump had done, listen, I have my problems with him. I'm going to make that clear. I'm an independent like yourself. When given the choice this time around, I decided he was the better choice. But he's actually done a lot. He stood in front of the entire United Nations and demanded that violence against gays cease immediately. And there's a host of other things he actually did for the gay community. So I'm like, where is this rhetoric coming from? But now it actually,
yeah, look, I've known the guy for 35 years. I wouldn't say we're best friends, but I've gone to Nick and met in Yankee games with him, and he's funny. He's a funny guy.
Right.
I mean, and I get a lot of info out of him about certain people that I need to know about. But I've never, in all the time that I've known Donald Trump, I have never heard him disparage any group, disparage a person all day long.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, I know.
Give me a list.
I know.
But not a group.
Right.
That's not him. He wants African Americans to prosper. He sees it as a source of pride if his policies can elevate minority groups. Now, he demonizes undocumented because it works for him politically, and they shouldn't be here. And he's a very strident guy on that point. But as far as wanting a certain group to get hammered, that's just propaganda made up by the corrupt media, and it's very unfair.
Yeah, and it works, which is so scary. I want to jump to one of your other books in the Killing series, or rather the Killing series unto itself. Can you tell me about this series, and subsequently, when you look at assassins of presidents or attempted assassins of presidents throughout history, you say they have things in common. So tell me about the series and what are those things these guys have in common?
All right, so there are 13 killing books and one confronting book, confronting the presidents. We've actually bundled them all for Christmas and Hanukkah on BillO'Reilly.com. You can buy the whole set for a very reasonable price. And that's 14 gifts. So I say, okay, look.
They're all New York Times, number one New York Times bestsellers. They're incredible.
Right. And, you know, I'm the best-selling nonfiction author in the world. And 19 number one bestsellers. Yeah. On you'll never read that, by the way. They never write that. But by far, I'm the best-selling nonfiction author in the world. 19 number ones on the New York Times list, which I'm sure gives them great joy. So the assassins. All of them have one thing in common, mentally unbalanced, all of them. The most famous assassin is Lee Harvey Oswald. And I wrote Killing Kennedy and traced Oswald, and he was a total loon. This guy was out of his blanket mind. Second was John Wilkes Booth, who killed Abraham Lincoln. Now, he was poisoned racist, this guy Booth. And he hated Lincoln because Lincoln was trying to free the slaves. But both Oswald and Booth, the two most famous, were so far out there. If you ran into them anywhere, you go, whoa, I'm going the other way. The other ones, Garfield and McKinley, these were kooks as well, lesser known. And if you look at the two guys that try to take out Trump, both of them are just ne'er-do-well crazy people. And so we live in a free society where we have freedom of movement. Crazy people have that freedom too. And that is the big danger for politicians. But,
okay, it's been a conspiracy since the day Kennedy was shot. The CIA is behind it. The military-industrial complex is behind it. Trump's going to release the files of who's actually behind it. So it can't just be him. So is there something behind these guys much bigger that finds a crazy guy and says, oh, they meet the profile. Let's bring that guy in and have him do the dirty work? Because he can't be like the lone assassin.
There was no conspiracy. That's a bunch of nonsense.
Really?
People make a lot of money peddling that kind of stuff. I like Oliver Stone. I think he's a very talented director, but he's out there, you know, I said, he was on my show one time, and I said, come on. If you're the CIA, you're going to pick Lee Harvey Oswald? This is the guy you're going to get? No, that's not who you're going for, okay? You're going to go for a much higher grade of bad guy than Lee Harvey Oswald. The classified information that should be released to the American public will show that the CIA surveilled Oswald, and they did. because he lived in Russia. He came back to the United States under nefarious circumstances. He went to Mexico City. He tried to become a Cuban citizen. He's all over the place, so they're watching him. That's true. All right, but my book, Killing Kennedy, is so methodically researched, step by step by step, it just blows all these conspiracy people out of the water.
Well, that brings me to Thomas Crooks. Okay, so I got to push back on you on this one simply because the guy has 3 offshore bank accounts. That's weird. There's apparently some phone that was like at the FBI's office that's also traced to his house. If that's true, I saw that in the Zeitgeist. I never did deep homework on it. But there's a kid on the roof with a gun that people were pointing out for quite some time. Like, Bill, how does that just happen?
This is why I don't want the government running my health care.
Really? You think it's nothing? You think he's just like,
there's a guy
whoopsie-daisy?
on the roof with a gun, and the Secret Service, for some reason, didn't take any action on him. This is the federal bureaucracy.
Really? You don't think any is foul play?
If you watch the testimony of the leader of the Secret Service in Congress, the woman was a Biden appointee who didn't know anything. Well, I don't know. So anyway, look, I'm not a conspiracy guy. If there's some proof that comes across my desk, I'll look at it and I'll analyze it in a fair way. I haven't devoted a lot of time to the guy on the roof, but at your suggestion, maybe I will.
Will you be writing Killing Trump? I hope not.
Well, no. Now they've reorganized the whole thing, and you can't ever guarantee anything. But the way they have it now, and Trump himself has changed. He's got the plexiglass around him now. So I'm fairly confident that the Secret Service has rebounded quickly and will protect the president. But it's not 100%.
Confronting the presidents, what should Donald Trump take away from this book, do you think?
Well, he texted me 2 nights ago because he saw the special that News Nation did on confronting the president, which is excellent, by the way.
I watched it. It was fantastic.
Trump doesn't read a lot of books, but he watches TV. So he texts, he goes, I just watched this special. And I said, Mr. President, I'm very happy you saw it. He goes, what do I have to do to get into the great category? And so we discussed that a little bit. I'm not going to tell you what we said because it's a private conversation.
Come on, man.
No.
Highlights.
You would be shocked. You would be shocked about the names of the people who call or text me, all right, to discuss things. I never, ever, if it's a private conversation, ever do I give anything out about it. And that's because they're doing that in confidence. I did lay out to President Trump, look, there is a formula for becoming great. And there is. And it has to do with, number one, honesty. And, we kicked that around for a while. He has a chance. I mean, the media, corrupt media, will never acknowledge it, no matter what he does. And that's something that they'll never acknowledge, that I'm the best-selling nonfiction author on earth, ever. And something I just accept. And he has to accept it too. But if he does what he said he will do in the campaign, he will elevate himself up to a level that the word great might apply to. But if he's like Grover Cleveland, the only other guy who was elected non-consecutive terms, Cleveland's second term was a disaster. A disaster.
Why?
So it could go either way.
Why was it a disaster? Because my question is, I say this simply because I imagine the resistance can create some problems. I mean, if you spend the first year of your presidency getting impeached, Russia, this, that, the other, you're distracted, your time is drained, you're being blocked in the Senate, this, that, the other. But he's got he's got everything, the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court. Like, what would be in his way? Anything that stopped Cleveland?
Him.
Did you tell him that?
You got to be clear thinking and discipline, and stop the feuds that don't matter, and really focus. These are complicated situations, but he certainly can do it. He's got an amazing grasp of big picture. Not a micro guy, but he's got guys like Stephen Miller. Miller's smart. And Susie Wiles, the new chief of staff at the White House.
Yes, I hear.
Smart.
I hear she's awesome.
So, I'm rooting for him. I think all Americans should, even if you don't like him. Because if he succeeds, the country succeeds, right?
Yes. Last question, Bill. Last question. You've been so generous with your time. This is personal. I'm a health person. They dragged my area of expertise into the political arena and made health a political football. The Democrats ceded that mantle to the Republicans. I think it was an extraordinary mistake on their part, but nevertheless, they did it. He put Kennedy in place to run the HHS, and Kennedy is promising to root out corruption. Do you think, given all the special interests at play here, that that's possible?
What's possible is that the Department of Health and Human Services can do what the Surgeon General did with tobacco. And I know Bobby Kennedy Jr., and I agree with him 100% that sugar is killing this country. Sugar. Now, the preservatives, they're a problem. Fast food's a problem, yes. But it's sugar that is really deteriorating the health of the citizenry. And most people don't even know it until they get the diabetes test. So you got to stop with the Coke and the Pepsi and all of this. You've got to cut your sugar quotient down. And that should be, warning labels should be on all of these drinks and all of these foods that have this heavy laden of it. The government can get the word out. Since 1965, Jillian, cigarette and tobacco use in this country has declined 75%. Wow. And it's only one reason. They slapped that warning on those tobacco products. And people saw other people die and suffer from using tobacco. Same thing has to happen with the sugar. You gotta knock it down. And the food companies don't want to do that, obviously, but that's the campaign that the federal government should wage.
Sir, you do not disappoint. The most recent book, Confronting the Presidents. Tell me the news, your channels, your memberships. I know you even get personal emails from people that are in your club and you respond and tell me everything. I mean, I know a lot about you. Tell everybody else everything. Okay. Bill O'Reilly, please, sir.
Well, number one, I don't have to do this. All right. And I've been very lucky in my life and I don't have to do it every day. And the reason I do it is because I like the folks. So we have BillO'Reilly.com. That's where we live. You can become a premium or concierge member. Concierge membership, and we keep it very low priced, means my team is on your team. You get into trouble, you got a problem, my team will help you. That's huge. So that's BillO'Reilly.com, concierge membership. Tremendous gift for Christmas and Hanukkah. We have our YouTube channel that I do commentaries on all the time. We have a daily news program, Monday through Thursday. I guess that's daily. Stuart's only doing one because Stuart, I'm older than Stuart, but boy, if you look at us both, you know I'm much younger and more vibrant. He can only do one day. I do 4 days. So, and last time I was on his dopey show, I said, what's the matter with you? I'm doing 4, you're doing 1. What's the matter with you?
Hack. He's a hack.
Right. And then we have 300 radio stations that carry our commentary. So I'm working way too hard, number one. But I like it, and I think we're doing good. I think we're spreading a message that America's a noble country. We want people to be kind to each other. We don't want to be divided by tribes. We want to be all Americans looking out for each other. And it sounds kind of like Pollyannish, I know, but that's what we do. And I think that's why we're successful. And it's a pleasure to meet you. I've never met you in person, but this is like, you know, now I feel like I know you, Jillian. Thank you for having me on.
I hope you feel that way, sir. And I cannot thank you enough for giving me your time. It means the world. And I cannot wait to dig into the remainder of the Killing series. I've clearly got a lot of work to do. Until the next time, I hope you'll come back.
Sure. Merry Christmas, Jillian.
Thank you. Back at you.